So one thing I never really do with my channel is talk about my personal life much. I've always been kind of apprehensive to share more about my life, and I've just never really felt the need. There's kind of a balance, I think, in YouTube in how much of your personal life you share, and everyone does it differently, and I've always been quite reserved with that aspect, and I think it doesn't hurt to share a bit more. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing today, and I think it might be interesting to some of you guys as well to just hear about all the downsides, not all the downsides, but to hear like a realistic account of what my year has been like. I think a lot of social media, maybe not YouTube so much, but a lot of social media is just about the highlights of our lives and all the good things. I think it's useful and important to be realistic and to share the realistic aspects of our life. So yes, I'm going to be talking about why this year was just terrible overall, and I'm not clickbaiting you and I'm not exaggerating what I'm going to talk about. It all happened and is real, but I think if everything was easy, then we wouldn't grow and change as people. So I have to look at the positive of this as well and appreciate that this year has probably helped me to grow quite a lot. I know that my issues are ultimately not devastating and they're not that big, but I think everything is relative, and I don't think there should be any embarrassment or shame in acknowledging and speaking about the bad things, even if ultimately they're not that bad. But anyway, let's just get into January and start off this year. I was very behind on university work, and something I don't talk about that much is how hard I find it to balance medical school and YouTube. Medical school is always going to take priority because I know that it's like a more long-term goal, but for me, making YouTube videos has been a way to unwind from university and to like keep my creativity alive in some way. As I was already so behind on work in January, I was finding it a lot more difficult to make time for editing, filming, and just creating stuff. The thing with med school is that you kind of need to do work in the evenings or on the weekend. Your timetable hours are not the only time you should be working. So I'd spend a lot of my spare time doing YouTube instead of actually studying, and I just get further and further behind with my work. That was causing a lot of stress to build up. I had a lot of pressure, mainly just from myself. What started to happen though was that I was getting so just stressed out and unhappy with university, just because of how difficult I was finding it and how much time I had to spend on it, that I started to lose a lot of motivation for YouTube, and I felt like my creativity was being really drained. And I still managed to do videos, I still managed to upload, but I wasn't feeling the same motivation that I'd felt when I started my channel and for the first year, I suppose. So January was just a little bit stressful, and to be honest, my motivation with YouTube is only just starting to come back, and I'm only just starting to feel better, but we'll get into that. So in February, what started to happen was that I was doing a lab project for the year. I was like the lowest person in the lab, like a student is the bottom of the chain, and there was a postdoc, so that means that they've done their PhD. So I was being supervised by her. She really didn't like me, and I had to go to that lab like 4 days a week. Basically what was happening is that she was supposed to teach me how to do things, show me how to use equipment, help me check my dissertation, but she just didn't like me, and she never helped me, or she rarely helped me. And when she did help me, she was not very nice about it. She didn't really answer questions. She just wanted to be independent and didn't want to help me, but her supervisor had told her to help me. And now that I'm saying it out loud, it doesn't sound that bad, but when you are with someone like minimum of 3 days a week, every single week, for 4, 5, 6 months, and they are not nice to you, and they don't really respect you, and they kind of speak down to you and think you're like an annoying presence, that's not nice. And you start to feel kind of bad and just not good when you're around that person. And what frustrated me even more is that I went to people for support. So the supervisor of the lab, my like personal tutor, I went to both of these people, but they both thought it'd be best to wait, and I respected their opinions. And I waited. I carried on going to the lab. I carried on being spoken down to and just kind of being ignored actually sometimes. One good thing that happened is I went to Paris to visit a close friend of mine, and that was really fun. I think I recovered my mood with food. that's probably not a good way to do things, but no, I'm joking. I ate a lot of good food and we had a lot of fun. That kind of healed my spirit a little bit, but not enough because in March, things got so much worse. So basically one day this postdoc called me into the lab for a meeting and I just had a really bad feeling. And at this point I was so done. I was so done with her attitude, the way she'd been treating me. And I'd been so polite, guys. I had been so kind, polite and nice. So I went into the lab and she basically just told me that she wasn't gonna give me any of the data that I needed for my dissertation. This was just like total, like, just nonsense. I sound like such a nerd, but basically I had every right to have that data because I'd done so much of the work for it. I was just so sick and tired of being mistreated by her. I was respectful, but I just told her that she hadn't really been very welcoming and hadn't really helped me or taught me in a way that was very encouraging. Basically, she went off and wanted to report like everybody, wanted to report the supervisor of the lab, was sending me like crazy emails. I should probably mention that in these emails, she was emailing people saying that I had been blackmailing her and manipulating her. So they were really worrying because she was emailing it to like my supervisor and me. And it was just like, these emails were just, this stuff didn't happen. No one really believed her because look, who could I blackmail? I can blackmail anyone. The supervisor kind of told the postdoc off and I was given the data because it was my data as well. The last day I had in that lab, I just remember feeling so relieved. I was so happy that I never had to step foot in that lab or speak to those people ever again. So that all kind of finished. And then from March till May, I was just studying for exams. And for those 2 months, I was kind of just in the library like most days. It's not like a particularly happy time because it's very draining in every way when you're just in the library for like 8+ hours. It's not nice. But I'm used to it and you kind of just have to put in a lot of hours if you want to do well. I'm sure it's the same for a lot of other degrees and at a lot of other universities, so I did not feel sorry for myself. It's just the way things are. But it wasn't the greatest time, but also it wasn't the worst time. So yeah, I handed my dissertation in, which was a little bit of a highlight, more of a relief than a happy feeling, to be honest. We printed all of our stuff. It was like £30. Kind of scared I made an error, but it's too late now. Let's go, hand it in. And then I finished all my exams. It was really a massive sigh of relief to finish that year, that year of university that I had hated. Just a generally horrible experience. In June, my auntie who lives in Lhasa came to visit and it was the first time I'd ever met her in my life. And I just got to know her and it was really good. In June, I also went to Greece with my cousin and that was another really good time. June finished, June was a good month, July was not a good month. I haven't really talked about this before and I had been in a relationship and in July that ended. So as you can imagine, that was a bad time. Let's not get into that, shall we? But in August, I went to China and I went with two of my closest friends, Annie and Amir. We learned Mandarin, or tried to learn Mandarin, for 3 weeks in Shanghai. We visited so many like cultural landmarks and did so many amazing things in China. We also did eat a lot of food. Conclusion, I'm just a pig. China was so good, I loved it, I had a very good time. It was really good, but it was also very bad at points because the relationship things from July were still continuing. It wasn't pleasant. I feel like I've said that so much. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was kind of bad. Overall, China was an amazing experience. Anyway, the day after we got back from China, we actually started the 4th year of med school. So I didn't have a break, which was fine. I was recovered. So for September, we were doing an introduction to the 4th year. We start working on wards, we start speaking to patients, we start examining patients. I am actually enjoying it, to be honest, guys. I enjoy it so much more than I did the previous years. It felt very intensive in terms of the learning. It literally feels like this is my learning. It's what it feels like. Was that a good description? Probably not. I guess because I'm talking to patients now and taking histories, trying to examine them, it feels very adult and very different to reading a textbook. I think September hasn't been a bad month. The same for October. I think now it's November, I'm finally starting to feel motivated with YouTube again. I'm finally starting to feel creative. And I think that has been bashed or has been suppressed so much by my stress. Now I'm starting to feel happier, I'm starting to feel better in myself. Also in September I graduated and now I have a degree, which is kind of crazy. And even though this was a bad year, I'm grateful for it on the positive side, because it has taught me a lot about myself. In this video, I've only just briefly talked about everything, but these are the main reasons as to why this year wasn't very good. I hope, and I'm actually really certain that the next year will be so much better. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!